let's continue with the series. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to explain some of these mechanics in a little more depth, and I'll start with a sort of a mid-game fight, so we have a little bit more spirit points to work with. In the upper left, you can see the total amount of spirit points you have to work with, and it goes pretty fast when you start adding units and you give them souls. So I'm gonna give us a nice front line here, and I'm gonna really mix things up. So I'm gonna start with Life Horn. The first time you add a soul to a unit, it costs 10 spirit points, and the unit itself costs 15. So we've already used 25. And if you want to give a unit more than one soul, you can do that. And I'm gonna do something a little bit crazy. I'm gonna use the soul of vampire, Jacko Pastorius. So this is another unit who is a little bit magically oriented, and neither one of them have a lot of health, so we can go ahead and we actually got a little bit of a penalty that we have that maybe want to offset, so we have good chance of survival. This third button in the upper right is the Metaphysical Forge. I can go ahead and this is sort of, I can attach some equipment to this unit, maybe even give them a little bit of damage reduction. And I want this unit to actually be able to do damage, but right now their magic is higher than their melee, and there's this special item that whichever is higher, whether it's magic or melee, the average of the two is used in place of the lower. In this case, it's already computed that with no further investment, I would get 8 points of melee out of that, which is pretty awesome. And if I add a magic staff, well, the Bastard Spell Sword is also in place, so the net effect will be a lot of both stats. So I'm gonna just put a little bit more into magic. This purple rectangle with the white number inside, that's how many spirit points it costs to raise it one more time. And I don't want to go too crazy because I want to have some allies here as well. So let me do that. Let's add another unit to the front row, and I'm also going to put a unit in the back row. So I'm going to explain why in a second here. So the 2 souls, I'm going to just I'm going to inspect the unit that I already rigged up here, and I go over to there's statuses. These are like passives. So friendship is from Life Horn. When this unit gets healed, it shares 50% of that evenly distributed among allies. So that's pretty handy. And then Lifesteal, this is designed to actually interact with friendship. So if this unit deals damage to an enemy, 20% of that amount heals itself, and then that it's coded so that will interact with friendship. So that 20% heal based on damage dealt bounces to both allies by half of that, but then it's split in half, so each one would get 5% each if there are 2 allies. And you can see that the items, you can investigate and then be reminded of that too. But at the moment, what I want to do is I want to open the second button, the Book of Souls. It has a nice little book icon, and I want to select a different unit in the front row. So I want a nice frontliner. I'm gonna go with let's make it Baron von Sentry. He's just kind of very defensive character. If you give him health, he gains damage reduction and damage reflection. So most attacks, whatever the offensive scaling is, usually damage reflection is damage that is dealt to the attacking unit, and usually with the same ratio. So if your attack has a 2.0 ratio, the typical damage reflection ratio is also 2.0. So usually your big attacks reflect damage back, but there are exceptions. So if you examine in detail, sometimes it'll say. So for example, Baron von Sentry, one reason he's such a good frontliner is he comes with this advanced skill where the damage is computed from his damage reduction and damage reflection instead of his melee or magic or range. So that's, anything could scale with anything. This one is a special skill that your defense becomes your offense, but you don't get to use your melee stat directly. And then you keep reading here, it bypasses the enemy's damage reduction and damage reflection. So it's pretty nice. So if you want to, you can just use that skill over and over again, and it's not the most efficient way to deal damage, but it's consistent. Like in this case, with the way his stats are now, he'll always deal 12 damage, can't be resisted at all, but it's a melee attack, and so it's hard to get to the back row with that. It's nice to have someone else as a bigger damage dealer. But now that I've got that front line set up, let's do one more person. This is Gerald Atricus. He doesn't like to be called Jerry because geriatricus, just, it's kind of a pun. It's not very nice, but he's just really old, and it's not fun getting old. I've known some old people. I have an old dog. It's not fun. It happens to everybody if you make it that far. But anyway, his deal is his big, most prominent special attack is called Storm Cloud. His magic, the base scaling on magic, you put points in. The base amount is you get +4 every time you raise it, but every time he casts Storm Cloud during a battle, then for the rest of the battle, the base amount, you add 0.1 to the base multiplier. And not only that, but the spell itself has additional hits. The first hit is just 65% of your magic, but then each hit after that is 1/2 of what the first hit did, and then 1/3 of the first hit. So it's then 1/4, 1/5. So multiple hits that are in decreasing amounts, but it adds up to a lot. And just the total scaling of how much magic power you have is also increasing each time. So you want to have mana. You want to have a lot of mana. That'd be nice. But he also, if you invest points into health, well, he doesn't have as much health as most units, but some of the points that you invest in health end up getting added to mana in the end. So that's kind of handy. Don't want to overdo it because there's everything in this game. There's diminishing returns. It gets more expensive to add more points. So you have to be really careful about that. It's a tough call. I've kind of spent a lot of spirit points. I'm running out of spirit points, but I'm going to buy a health potion. So that should get me going pretty far. So one more thing I want to explain here is this dot, these stars, and this star with a dot. Those symbols represent action points. Every turn you get a major action point, which is represented by a star, and you get a minor action point, which is represented by a dot. So it uses up one or the other, or sometimes even both. It might use up both, in which case there's a star with a dot inside of it. So this one here is called Homing Bolt. Well, sometimes you run out of mana, and that's no fun. So most magical classes get this kind of generic Homing Bolt skill, which it averages your magic and your ranged and deals that much damage to any unit. And what's nice about it is it can't be, it can hit any unit you want. Most attacks can be blocked, so which reduces your options for who can you target. Homing Bolt is special, so it's usually it's going to do less damage because that's 2 stats that you have to raise for it to be really good. But you can choose whichever unit you want. But the 2 downsides are the raw amount of damage is it depends on 2 different stats, and it's a hybrid action. It's a major and a minor, so that's the only thing that unit can do in the whole turn in that case. Yeah, let's see how this works out in practice. Hopefully this party is equal to the tasks that I'm put in front of it. I intentionally made it so these sandbox fights tend to be somewhat challenging. Sometimes if you pick a really powerful setup, you can sort of steamroll a little bit, but usually if you just do it kind of random, it just depends. Sometimes the AI, if they randomly use all their attacks against the same unit, you can get into a little bit of trouble. So here, Baron von Sentry took a couple hits already. On the far right is the combat log, and you can switch to another tab to get more detailed info about enemy and friendly units, kind of like similar to what we discussed earlier. So you can see this enemy has one unit who has a soul, and the other two are just sort of generics. But that Minnow Bison, he actually has two souls. He has Minnow Bison, and he has the soul of the generic ninja. So in game, those are all things you can hover. I just want to show you where it is. And there's this other unit called Chaos Turkey, who is really, really annoying. What he does is he has a peck and a scratch, and it actually has, it can use its minor action point to refund its major action point, and it costs 1 mana, and that's called Warble. And so it kind of recycles its action until it runs out of mana. It may or may not choose to do this. Sometimes it just it has a couple options. One of them is Warble. It might just decide to end its turn, but sometimes you get unlucky and it pecks multiple times. So Chaos Turkey is kind of a jerk. But anyway, I don't think this Baron von Sentry is an immediate damage or dying, so I'm not going to use the health potion. The health potion heals for a lot. It's 50% of max HP, but it takes a minor action to do that. And I think this Chaos Turkey is just really obnoxious. Oh, I accidentally used Rebuke. That's a different ability. It does more damage than Advance, but it does not. Advance has the benefit of causing you to go into a blocking state, a guard state when you use the ability. But that's okay. Rebuke, pretty good damage. But it also knocks the unit into the back row, which is kind of not what I wanted. So right now, Life Horn, if I were to do a melee attack, I would only be able to hit a front row unit. And I would like to hit Chaos Turkey, so I'll just wait. I'll have Gerald Atricus go next. So I'll just use Storm Cloud. Because the targeting is completely random, there will be no confirmations. I'll just click it, and it will just do it right away. So you can see in the log on the far right, it hit Minnow Bison for 20 damage. So this Knight of Cannon Fodder, that's a pun. I pronounce it cannon fodder. I actually googled it. Maybe fooder is kind of how that kind of spelled word is usually pronounced, but I'm just going to say fodder because why not? I make the rules here. Gerald Atricus has another ability. He can steal mana points from an ally, and he can steal a little bit of health. So I'll wait on that. I don't want to steal health just yet because he's not really injured. What do I want to do, though? I think Life Horn... Life Horn can use... I think I want to hit Chaos Turkey. Yeah, whatever. I'll just use Homing Bolt on Chaos Turkey. Do a little bit of damage there. So this black border here is sort of interesting. This black border is how I visually represent the fact that that unit is in the guard state. Most units in the game, except for some special units that are not supposed to block, have it. You can block, which means melee and ranged attacks always give priority to a unit who is blocking whenever it could normally attack some other unit. So my ranged attack, normally I could hit anybody, but because there's a unit in the front row who's blocking, I can't go past that. I can't hit the other unit in the front row, and I can't hit the unit in the back row, so it's very disruptive. So sometimes, removing block and then doing some attack that does more damage, however you want to do it. And depends on the turn order. I'll make a separate video about that because that's a whole thing in and of itself. We're just doing a little bit at a time here. But now I sort of have some interesting choices here. So Baron von Sentry kind of needs some healing, but remember what I said. Life Horn, if Life Horn heals itself, I haven't decided whether it's he or she, actually. But anyways, he or she shares 50% of that with allies. So, and because this is also a vampire, Jacko Pastorius has both of those souls, I can just deal a lot of damage. So I think I'm just gonna go. Think I'm gonna use Blood Frenzy here. So what that does is you pick an enemy. It's describing what I'm doing right now. It does damage to an enemy, but then you steal a major action from an ally, and you steal a minor action from maybe the same or a different ally. I chose to stole the major action from Varian von Sentry. It did a lot of damage, magic plus melee, it cost a mana, and I stole actions from my allies, but I refunded my own actions, as you can see with Lifehorn right next to the name, the dot and the star are still there, so that's cool. So Baron von Sentry is just going to go into a guard state. You see that damage reduction and damage reflection are both higher now a little bit. I think that it doubles temporarily until he gets hit by something. And these are the two units who can attack soon. So that's okay. He can just survive a turn. He'll probably take a health potion next turn. And then Gerald will just use Storm Cloud. So you can see Minnow Bison and the Knight of Cannon Fodder both took some damage. The Knight of Cannon Fodder is actually kind of low. Lifehorn, he can't use Blood Frenzy anymore because it requires stealing action points from your allies, and they're not available. So it grays out the button because it's intelligently, detected that ability cannot be used right now. What can I do? Right now I could use Sparkle, which is a very rainbow kind of thing to do. So let's just do that. So she'll heal herself by sort of 15 or so. I think it's half. How much was it exactly? 1/4 of her magic stat, which is kind of a lot because she has like 50 magic. So she healed herself for like 15 or so allies, and then you can see in the log way down here, each ally got healed by 3, while she healed herself by 12. So it's not a ton, but it's better than nothing. And I think I think I said I wanted to kill the Chaos Turkey. Well, melee and ranged are my options. Melee is the one that does more damage. So let's hit the Chaos Turkey. I healed myself for 4 health points due to the life steal, and that healed the allies by just a little bit, but I'm kind of just messing around a little bit too much. I can't. The shared life steal is not quite doing enough on its own, so Baron von Sentry is going to take this health potion, and now we're in good shape. So what do I want to do? I think I would like to just finish off this unit. Chaos Turkey has no damage reduction, but 8 damage reflection. So this is going to hurt a little bit, but it's fine. I've got life steal in this unit. It'll be no big deal. I'm just going to do a basic melee attack and 36. No damage melee, no damage reductions more than 26. That unit perishes. So pretty good there. And we can just use Sparkle. It's a self-heal that doesn't cost anything, but it's a minor action. It only heals for 1/4 of magic, but for this character that's actually pretty decent. And bounces the heal over to the allies. Pretty nice. It's a nice little supplemental heal, but that health potion was pretty crucial. That's why I brought one. And now they're both kind of low. Baron von Sentry doesn't do much damage, but Stormcloud is starting to scale up. Well, it's alright. Could have done more damage. Let me show you something. So notice that in the middle of battle, whenever enemy units die, it awards Essence, which is, well, Essence, it converts into spirit points with diminishing returns. Like the more spirit points you earn, the more the next one's going to cost. So it's impossible to, there's like an actual ceiling of how much you could ever possibly get. And you get closer and closer to that ceiling as you get more essence. And now I was because I spent a health potion, I refunded some spirit points, and then I earned some from getting a kill. So, for example, I have Gerald Atricus selected. I want Gerald to actually do some damage next turn, so he feels like he's powerful. So I just raised his base magic stat, which thanks to those stacks of 2 or 3 stacks of Storm Cloud, yeah, 3 of them. He should be. It's starting to add up. His magic is up to 48, even though originally I didn't have a whole lot of magic invested into him. I kind of spent a lot on Lifehorn, but it's a team effort, and we're getting there. So, what are we gonna do? If I click on directly next to his name, where that star is, he has a major action. I could do a melee attack, but it wouldn't be enough to kill anybody. Major rest means he heals himself by 5% of his max health. I think I'm just gonna do that. So, anytime when you're kind of like, your options are sort of, you just want to rest. You don't have to go through the sub menu in the left panel. You can just click next to their name to rest and heal up a little bit, and that usually works out pretty well. So Lifehorn has 36 melee. This knight only has 3 damage reduction, so that'll be enough damage. So it's a very uneven distribution of how I invested the spirit points, and Lifehorn is kind of doing most of the work. It's a healer and a tank. We've got just a pure tank with not much investment, and we also have a damage dealer with not much investment, but it is starting to scale up. So if I do Storm Cloud now, it'll hit like 4 times, and in the log on the right you can see it's full damage, half amount, 1/3 amount, 1/4. That's sort of the pattern. And that was a near kill, but not quite. And okay, I guess I'll let Baron von Sentry do the honors. He's going to do 12 damage, because that's how advance works. It's damage reduction plus damage reflection, and it's not reduced. There's no damage reduction applied whatsoever. So this 8 damage reduction that Minnow Bison has, advance completely bypasses that. So in certain situations, it's really nice. Against a lot of damage reduction, it's actually the advantage of bypassing damage reduction pays off a lot. So it's a somewhat uncommon effect in the game, so it can be valuable in some situations. And there we go. So we won. I don't have a big you win screen. When I move on to the alpha and I start having multiple battles that are connected by a narrative, or or interwoven with shopping excursions and trips to the abyss to graft more souls, when all that's interconnected, there will be transitions and all that, but for a sort of demonstration of the battle engine, there you go. That's one example of a fairly effective party. It's not the only way to do it. Sometimes you can just have one unit who's super duper powerful, and you bring a few consumables just in case, and sometimes, depending on what you're up against whoever kills everybody first is the winner. And so there's more than one way to do it, which is kind of cool. But there you go. So that's sort of the idea, and maybe next time I'll show off some boss fights.